Hello, everybody. We're the first last Nerdom. I'm Thomas. I'm joined, as always, with Mike, and we're going to be pulling open the grab bag and seeing what we got in store for you. I think we're going to be checking out the financials for DC Comics and
Hmm.
talking about a few exciting TV shows and
Yes.
comics and maybe even a, movie or two. What's in the horizon? So, Mike, what's going on with you?
Not much, not much. We continue to I don't think I remember a time. Of course, I wasn't really following the pop culture and the nerddom like we are today. Like I've always like you, I've always had an eye out and ear out
Mhm.
for it, but I don't
Had the
recall
radars
another.
out. The radar was
Yeah, it
out.
and
Yeah.
there and we're getting hits, a lot of hits, a lot of return on the radar. But there's anyway, there's a lot of, in other words, there's a lot of cover that I thought would have slowed down, but we are marching along here, and there's plenty of new
Oh.
properties, new ways. I'm
Mhm.
happy that I believe I found a new mainstay
Mhm.
for entertainment. That's always good. That is just good quality for so far. And yeah,
Yeah.
we're gonna check the financials out on like Thomas said, and I'm
Yep.
looking forward to our recommendations to kind of help
Right.
folks get up to speed because
Mhm.
whenever you start a new IP or new property, um, unless you're going in blind and you don't really care about the background details or whatever, but it does kind of help out because for me, I get kind of overwhelmed with aspects
Mhm.
and things like I don't, especially if they have different names and stuff. But aside from that, yeah, here we are. This week's grab bag.
Mhm. Yeah,
And we
and
got quite a bit.
yeah, and with the grab bag, we named it grab bag because we just want to talk about an assortment of things, and we want this to become your go-to place for comic news, movie news, TV news. We'll tackle some of those things first, and then we like to recommend a few things. We don't try to spend too much time on one thing on the grab bag because it may not be your bag, so you want to get us on to the next thing. So we try not to chin wag too much on a single item. So that we can get to the next one, and
Mhm.
we've introduced a couple of features. We've have the soapbox that's anytime we feel like we have something more to say about a subject and want to pontificate a little bit, we'll get up on soapbox. And then last week we introduced the first installment of Cringe Corner. If you missed that, you might want to go back last episode, check out that was at the end of the episode. We looked at a Lowell Callan making Death Noodles in his saga. He did a fun little roast that ended up being very bad. Turned out very bad, and he's planning on another one in the at the end of this coming week. So this week, so there may be a little bit more to talk about as far as him. But yeah, so we have a little bit of assortment of various things. Hopefully, you'll find something that's your favorite and stick with us.
Absolutely, yeah. This week was we're of course we're into like you were saying, kind of leading into our first item here. There seems to be
Mhm.
a lot of introspection and like making sure things are profitable for
Mhm.
particularly like this one. I'm kind of amazed that like this normally like I don't think that we would have seen or heard or spent that much time on them in like a decade ago or even 20 years ago for like,
Mhm.
for the internal workings for studios. But I'd say the last half decade, it's been creeping up and becoming more of the thing like where normally we would never have known about the inside baseball for any of these companies or studios or anything like that. And nowadays, though, not only do they make headlines, but they're also they filter down to like, all the folks like us, like we discuss it. But nevertheless, um,
Mhm.
like as you said, this grab bag is about we cover multiple things, hop, skip, and when we have recommendations, we push them out and we try to tell you things that are cool to check. And in that vein, that cringe corner and the soapbox are wonderful additions when we have them. And then last week was very cringe.
Yeah, definitely. And we don't want to make those like a regular feature on every grab bag, because we want those to be unique and fun. And if we did it every week, they would probably lose their shine. But getting into the news, there's David Zaslav. He's made some fans and made some enemies by axing the Batgirl movie. There's some good and ill feelings, pros and cons to that, even though no one's seen the movie. But yeah, and who would ever guess that Discovery, some guy, the CEO of Discovery, would be deciding the fate of DC Comics? But that seems to be the case. They went through and cut, slashed various things in the movie section of the Discovery HBO world. They killed a lot of projects. They boosted up some. We'll be talking about one of the something got a second season already, which we'll talk about here in a second. So it's not all slashing and getting rid of news.
No, not at all.
But yeah, so
they cleaning for sure.
Yeah, they're cleaning house. They went through the movies. They've hit the TV streaming services, and they didn't think it would. They wouldn't hit the DC Comics for a little while, but nope, he's already looking towards that, and he's looking at the numbers and saying, "Why aren't we making money on these DC Comics?"
Yeah, and to kind of jump in, not quite a soapbox, but this is kind of like a thing that's kind of a rising tide for this thing. I don't doubt, I do not doubt, because I have seen it with my own eyes, that there's an aspect of woke or SJWs or whatever. But to be honest, regardless of that, that's a more newer thing that's kind of labeled on things that I think shouldn't be labeled on. I think it's over labeled. It's kind of wearing out its welcome a little bit, but DC has always had a problem with this, like where they've been trying for as long as the Marvel verse has been out. They've been trying that long to try to, I guess, catch their own lightning in a bottle, and they've had very bumpy results of what has worked and kind of what didn't. So this makes perfect sense that there needs to be some strong leadership that says we're like, we need that for DC. And a big old time fan of DC, just like you are, but
and I think obviously Zaslav, he's looking for what makes money, and if the so-called woke thing, whatever that is, if that made a bukus of money, everything would be woke for him.
Right. Look, I don't doubt that there's been times and places like where it's absolutely the case. Something dumb was made. Somebody picked a fight with the fandom. That's not a good recipe for success, but that's okay. They'll figure that out. And at the end of the day, nothing is remade or continues to be made unless it made some kind of money, or unless there was just like a tax write-off and they had to do it. But that's rare. I don't think that's the standard.
And there's we won't get into it, but there's some conspiracy theories as far as tax credits or whatnot that encourage various things being pushed forward in media. But that's not something that we really go into on our show, where we deal with more or less what's facts and what's in front of us. Not so much conspiracies or what may be going on behind the scenes. But DC Comics, much like its brother Marvel, they shovel out 50 or more titles a month, and all of the people that I know that are in the comic book industry or were and have stepped out of it, all of them have encouraged DC and Marvel to strip it down to 10 or so quality titles that everyone loves, and you sell under 200,000 copies of each title, and you'd be golden. But they do want to put out all these low selling titles, trying to, I guess, light a fire with these lesser known creators, or creators that don't sell it well. And it's strategies that's not working. And it looks like David Zaslav is looking at the accounting and it's like, okay, why are we pushing this stuff out? And either I would assume, this is speculation, I would think that they're either going to keep it in house, strip it down to what works, which at the moment is basically Batman and maybe Superman, and kind of and maybe on the titles that don't sell as well, like Green Lantern or Aquaman, get a AAA writer and artist on those titles, and get those get some enthusiasm into it. Or so that's if they keep it in house. There's also speculation that they're going to get someone like Image with Todd McFarlane to maybe go out of house and have him oversee the DC comics and those characters. And he's proven, he's proven in the past 2 or 3 years that he's kind of started his Spawn multiverse that's selling really well, and really kind of reignited the fans about Spawn. So he really knows how to pitch something. So yeah, he would be an ideal person to do that. And the fact that they're doing a Jim Lee, Todd McFarlane, Batman's Spawn crossover that's happening at the end of the year makes people speculate that maybe what they're doing, they're testing the waters to see how the fit is with Todd McFarlane and DC. So that could be something. Be very interesting to see what happens with it. I would be happy if they did strip down the titles to 10 or so, 10 to 15 quality titles a month, and then those that because when there's any given month, there's between 10 and 20 Batman titles alone. And that's I love my Batman, but I can't get all of those. I have to pick and choose what's good out there. And if you smother all of your you smother Batman with all of these titles, some aren't as good as others, and you run the risk of people picking up maybe the wrong title, getting turned off from Batman, and whereas the quality titles are hard to be seen among all the other titles.
Yeah, they need a serious adult at the helm that has a game plan or can put a game plan or find people to make a game plan. So that would be wonderful. Mm-hmm. And I'm always going to be a fan of making the companies better or whatever, especially because there's a track record there that it's more mixed than it has a few hits, but I don't think it has enough. I think they have more misses than that. And again, woke, not woke, SJW, DC's trouble with making big blockbuster films and making them stick goes back more than a decade. 2012 is when the Superman came out with Henry Cavill. I believe that's when it came out. So this thing has been going on for a long time. We definitely had some positive successes with like Wonder Woman and Chris Pines, and it was very, very awesome, very well received, very awesome. Gal Gadot, that totally cemented her role as like that is Wonder Woman.
Yep.
Some great ones, but then there's also like this thing that came out, where I don't quite know what they were thinking, but they did the it was still fun to see the Schneider verse cut and whatnot. There's just some things there that are interesting, but
and there's I think a lot of people forgot because it just got released on streaming, but that second Wonder Woman movie was such a turd that I think a lot of people forgot about it just because they love Gal Gadot so much. But that movie was horrendous.
I thought it was all right. I didn't think it was the best ever, but I agree. I do agree that on the totality of things, it was forgettable, and that's kind of how Superman has been. The Brandon Roush Superman was forgettable. Henry Cavill definitely is not forgettable, but all the same, the movie did all right. But we don't see it. Whereas the kind of like Disney Marvel has been a victim of their own success to a certain degree with pumping out so many things. It is what it is. But that's not unfortunately, DC has not had that. But I will say, I would argue though, I think they've had much more success on the smaller screen, and it could be argued, I guess, that the sheer quantity is a quality all of its own. With the CW stuff that happened for a good part of, you could argue it started with Smallville in the late '90s and it continued on to the Arrowverse, as it were nowadays, and then mix and match here or there, but it's been going for a long time. But they had some success with that. And I always like to bring in the DC animated films that are basically ripped directly from the comic book. It's animated. It's pretty much 1-to-1. There's no surprises there. There is no just this questioning of that invites questioning of like the wokeness and like where that kind of creeps in. None of that exists on that plane. But then again, that's probably kind of a little bit more of a super fan's take and interest in. Your average normies aren't going to run out to go watch these animated shows, but which are solid movies, excuse me. But in any case, I digress. But anyway, moving on from that to direct property that David has oversight on. This was the latest and greatest is out, and it came out last week, Sunday. This Sunday is going to be, or this coming weekend. This weekend will be the episode 2. And then when we meet up again, it'll be episode 3. So it'll be well on its way to go.
We're recording. We're recording this Sunday, so we haven't quite yet seen the second episode. I gave my take last week. I really enjoyed it, and I hear that you actually watched.
I did
the first episode in completion, and what's your overall take? All right,
I loved it. This is why this is why people have to be careful with the woke and the political nonsense. I absolutely, don't get me wrong, I will jump on a soapbox and I will hammer out like this is just dumb, or it's just made for the wrong reasons or whatever, like where this doesn't even make it. It was kind of like you can tell when something is infected with that take or that strain of political something or other, because it's not quite, the demographic for it isn't quite clear, and there's some other confusing things like where things get out of focus real quick. And they just don't and the quality level kind of goes down a little bit usually with those things. But none of that had anything to do with this. And I gotta say, Matt Smith was my favorite. Matt Smith was deliciously evil. And if you're not used to seeing Matt Smith and his capability and his caliber of acting, you will be thoroughly surprised by just him alone in it. But there are other folks that are also just as good in their own. That we have something new.
If I had only one small quibble, which will most likely be fixed through future episodes, is that him and one or two of the other actors were kind of standout performances, whereas a lot of the others kind of took a back seat and weren't as impressive. There's not a huge cast of characters like the original Game of Thrones had in their pilot. So that then there's quite a few actors in it, but it's not quite the expanse across the world kind of story. It's telling a smaller story within the House of Dragon. And so yeah, I think it's going to take a little bit of writing and finding the characters to make those other characters kind of stand out more. But yeah, that's maybe my only quibble, is that there wasn't a more there wasn't more actors that kind of took, made a more of an impression on me, so to speak.
Yeah, and this
Others.
this series, my understanding is the broad brushstrokes is going to be time shifted at some point. So
Okay.
the actors that we start with today aren't necessarily going to be there. It'll be the same character, I think, but they won't necessarily be the same. But who and what knows when that happens, we'll know it. But the only thing I would kind of take is I kind of felt like they jumped into the so Game of Thrones is hilariously known for its just sheer gratuity in
Yeah.
what you see in the content they're in. It is HBO's nom de plume for sure. For that's kind of what HBO is known for, like the more I don't want to say adult's the wrong word, but the more serious aspect. Like we kind of jumped into like what the for lack of a better term, like what the one character is like. The only aspect that I really kind of didn't care for was like being told right away, like this person is like an obvious like here's their flaw right in front of your face in the bedroom or whatever, and it's just like, yeah, okay, that's fine. I guess that's fine.
Yeah.
I guess we're in the very first stages of this, so I didn't really care for that. But I kind of like, but at the same time, kind of Game of Thrones was known to be build up to that, and then all of a sudden, when you are shown certain bedroom scenes, your jaw just drops.
Right.
So
Yeah,
like we're just going in. I didn't kind of care for that, but aside from that, it still worked. Whatever,
Yeah.
move on. Let's go. It's the best praise that I can possibly say is House of Hot D, as it is. That's my favorite acronym for it. HOTD, Hot D. There's a little connotation there, and I think it's well deserved. But aside
Yeah.
from that, a kind of jokey take on it, I'm here for it.
Yeah.
I am absolutely going to be riding this
Yeah.
out until they give me a reason and run it into the ground, which they can't do.
Right.
Like with two episodes.
Not to be, I get your double entendre, but not also not to be confused with the hot D from Always Sunny. Oh, not that D.
Another great show to watch. For sure.
Yeah. I the best thing I could see that happened with this show is they didn't bring the showrunners for the last show onto this one.
And they couldn't. Again, they couldn't. There's no way that they could do what they wanted to do with this, because that kind of had its own fallout, I guess.
Yeah, and that they had a blueprint that they could go off of for Game of Thrones, and it worked very well. It brought the level of the show above what a normal show can do, because it brought J.R. Martin's or George R.R. Martin's research and sheer volume of writing that got invested into the story that they were able to pull from. They could make a very rich story that took years to create by writing those books, and they brought it to its apex where Martin had stopped writing, and then it was on their watch to bring it to the end with maybe some encouragement from Martin. But from what I heard, rumors and whatnot, that they didn't always listen to what Martin had said. So you got to see their quality of writing towards the end, and it fell off a cliff and became something that is much derided to this day, which I think with this restructuring and getting a couple of new showrunners for this show, really, and it looks like Martin's very much invested in this as well, so it looks like he's working closely with them in making this show, and I think that's very good to have him kind of godfather this in. and it shows that there's a refocus on the writing and making sure it's top notch, along with the acting and the special effects and the music. Everything just kind of coalesced and did a really good job, and it shows. It's was very highly rated, and it's already been renewed for a second season, as we see.
Yep, and just to kind of go into it a little bit more, and kind of finish it out. You can tell, and I've heard rumors swirling around. I kind of just stopped paying attention to it for a long time after Game of Thrones, because nobody kind of knew. You kind of heard they made this one, but they scrapped it. Then they made another one, and they scrapped, or they were going to go in one of many different directions, and they ended up backing out of some things. I'm glad they did that, and I think that the reason why they're doing that is because of all their property that HBO has possession over, which is definitely George R.R. Martin. I mean, just the fact alone, it's the only other fantasy level type series that I think has been done to the point to like where normies get excited about it, was probably Lord of the Rings. And that's literary. I'm not talking about the movies. I mean, literally, like, who hasn't grew up in high school or middle school and read The Hobbit or whatever, something like that, just to kind of like just that ubiquity. But even still, even as wildly successful as the Lord of the Rings, the movie franchise was with Peter Jackson's take on it, and then a little bit lesser so for the Hobbit trilogy. The fact is that they know you can definitely tell this is not just going to be a one or two off. They definitely have plans in the wings for a multi-decade arc, for sure, of some kind. They have to, just with the material and whatnot. And it's just the fact that Game of Thrones blew up as big as it was is one of the biggest and best of all time, period. So one, you're already kind of in the shadow of a giant anyway. But the thing is that George R.R. Martin's world building is so wide and expanse. You can have several of those potentially if it's done right. And so far, so good. I'm very happy with this. I'd love to see more. And we'll see.
I don't think I put the article in this, but I did see where David Zaslav is kind of looking into maybe even rebooting Game of Thrones or correcting.
I heard that rumor. Yeah, I heard that. Yeah, I heard that from a few of the commentary ones, sci-fi nerd kind of channels that I follow. And then I was going to say too, related to that too, so the one of the scenes in the first movie, I'm not giving anything away. It's very brutal. It's very confrontational. It's very violent. And the guy who did the Battle of the Bastards famously in Game of Thrones, if you remember that, it was a big, massive battle. It was epic for the scale that they did it. And that guy who did that also was in charge of some of the sequences in this in the first episode. And that makes sense, and it shows the quality is just top notch. Again, it's just like it's freaking brutal and in your face right off the bat. Matt Smith, you kind of have to kind of take a step back and be like, that is not the Matt Smith that I know. Or that right. So it's just wonderful. So
and kudos to the costuming and design part of the show. His armor in that scene is quite amazing, and then all across the board, everybody's look and the feel of the show is definitely there. And then another thing I'll put out is also with the rush to push things out for streaming so that you could get as many eyeballs on as many programs as possible. HBO Max with their shows, maybe not with their movies, but the shows, just pushing everything out, maybe started lowering the polish of when you used to think of HBO, you would think, oh, quality shows, I gotta watch every one of those shows. There's only a handful of HBO shows, but every one of them is great. Whereas with HBO Max, maybe they were pushing out a lot of stuff, kind of lowering maybe the property value of HBO, whereas this brings it right back up to the top.
Yep. And at first I heard the first few days after the first episode released. I don't have any headlines here or anything to share, but it was something along, and then we can close up and go to the next thing. But I think it was like 10 million was the view, and now I've actually heard that has been actually 20 million. I think in the first week or something like that. So, and even to the point like where folks were having problems, if you on certain platforms, it was just overwhelming their system. So that's always a good problem to have. And I don't remember hearing about that for a very, very long time. I think
Absolutely.
season 8 and season 7, I remember hearing about how people they wanted to watch and they couldn't. And I actually had problems like a time or two with that being an issue where you logged in and you wanted to watch it or whatever. But hopefully they keep a good thing spinning.
Right.
And like I said, the best way, highest form of praise is returning every week. And there are definitely shows that they have fallen off a cliff and I don't return. But I don't see that happening for this. So it's just good. I'm just happy.
Yeah.
Happy that
it's
they
great.
found their way.
Great to have something to look forward to as far as the show. And and it just shows you that the nerds will turn out just to see if it's good or not. And then if you deliver a quality show like it did with that first episode, those fans will go out and pull in the normies and say you have to watch.
And now you have these are the second generation Game of Thrones nerds. The first generation ones they had no clue about any of this highborn this or that or fantasy. It's a very difficult concept to grasp or to portray in a compelling way for the normies to return. But there are diehard normies that have never picked up a fantasy or sci-fi book in their life, and their first exposure to any of this was Game of Thrones. And then of course they were thrown into the deep end with George R.R. Martin, and they became their own super fans. So we are seeing that those folks that have deeper background and knowledge and understand kind of the broader aspects of going on are definitely showing up to watch this for sure. So, and that's always a good thing. So we'll see if those numbers stick, but I think they will for sure. Anyway, moving on. So on the opposite end of the nerddom, we have Ahsoka with this series. I guess it's in the can and they're ready to let it roll. It sounds like.
And I'm a huge fan of the Clone Wars animated series, and the standout was always Ahsoka. Ahsoka's maybe when she first started out, the fans were like, "Who is this annoying Padawan to Anakin?" But yeah, she eventually grew on everybody, and I would assume that she's a fan favorite. And she's one of those characters that was really cultivated and kind of matured over the episode. She wasn't forced upon the Star Wars fans as, okay, you have to love her. She's going to have multiple series. She's going to have multiple movies, multiple series, and you have to love her now. They kind of grew the fandom, and this is back under George Lucas's watch, under Lucas's films, pre Disney. They kind of knew how to grow a fandom for a character, and so this is the apex. She has her own series now, live action, and this is from the article. Dave Filoni said that his dream was always to see a live action version of her, and it's great. This is all Dave Filoni, and Dave Filoni hasn't led me wrong. I believe other people have not been happy with some of his stuff, but I've been happy with the Clone Wars and his various projects with Lucasfilm. And then I like the Rosario Dawson portrayal of Ahsoka on The Mandalorian. So I'm definitely looking forward to this. And the fact that Dave's excited, I'm excited. So, but you know, you never know until it happens. But yeah, I'm looking forward to this.
Yeah, I will absolutely live vicariously through your take. Like I did enjoy her portrayal in The Mandalorian, and I have other things going on there. But if it is truly good, I will definitely jump in. But I am just not. Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with the Clone Wars. I just never really got into that. But Gen Z kids that are younger, they definitely grew up with that, and there is a fan base there, and it is very deep and it is very wide and very passionate too. So I hope the best, and it would be really cool if this is a standout hit from the kind of the noise that has kind of become. I feel like it's kind of become a little bit noisy to try to find that signal, but that's neither here nor there. But in any case,
Yeah.
very cool, very cool, awesome. Moving on, we have been covering Sandman here, like third, fourth week in a row now, talking about this, and this also kind of brings in the picture of what we kind of sort of touched on a little bit on the periphery, where Neil Gaiman. So, what was your take on this? 'Cause I know you were a very big Neil fan, and have the chops. You've read the show and I read the comic, and watched the show, and have very positive praise for it.
Yeah,
For sure.
I've enjoyed. I can't say I've read everything by him, but I've read the majority of his books and comic books, and anything I can get at my hands on, and I've enjoyed all of his stuff. He's unfortunately in the world of Twitter, he's kind of said some boneheaded things. I'll label him boneheaded. He said things that rub the fans the wrong way, and maybe he's getting kind of he's getting up there in age, as we all are. Maybe he's getting a little cranky or whatnot, but yeah, he said some things that kind of rub the fans the wrong way. But yeah, he's giving some praise to Rings of Power. Evidently, he's seen some of this, in his tweet was something like when the Silmarillion came out, he wanted the prequel that he wanted the Silmarillion to be was not what he wanted, and Rings of Power is more to what he was expecting.
Okay.
Now you could say that, well, there's not really conflict of interest in his big show Sandman is on Netflix, but he does have an Amazon show, Good Omens. So who knows behind the scenes if Amazon hit him up, was like, hey,
He
be a good person and say something nice about our show coming up.
Yeah, didn't he? Wasn't he I think he's also been on HBO or Showtime, like where he did. I think it was American Gods. I think. Please correct me if I'm wrong.
American Gods was
Or that was
on
somebody else.
Stars.
Sorry. Okay, but that was Neil. That was Neil's property, right?
Yeah, it sure
Yeah.
was.
Yep. So he's been everywhere. The kind of that's also another very good show. Overlooked show, I think.
Yeah.
Neither here nor there, but yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Like I said, we're definitely covering it some way somehow next week. Whether I think we're kind of like leaving it up in the air to like whether if there's some meat on there or another thing we just discussed. But in any case,
Yeah.
um,
I think it's next week is going to be the Clash of the Titans. You got
yeah,
House of the
September 1st.
Dragons and Rings of Power. See which one
Yeah.
comes out on top.
Yeah, and I at the end of the day, whether one and there truly are different properties. I think that I think of the two, I think it's a much easier road or a much better, easier path in some ways for House of the Dragons, because you have one, the creator's still alive, and two, they're just getting into that world building. Essentially, if you look at it from the side of like Game of Thrones will be one of many.
Yeah.
So
And
this,
and we'll probably discuss this more next week, but one of the things that I appreciated from House of the Dragon, they let people pretty much say what they wanted to say in social media. They did not
didn't care.
they didn't poke the bear. They didn't poke it and in social media to they didn't antagonize the fans. They didn't do anything. So the fans came to it willingly. Whereas Rings of Power has done various things to upset the fans and make them a little bit mad. So
Yeah, and that's a big contrast that I wanted to kind of touch on real quick before we go on the next thing. But like, whereas you have the Lord of the Rings or Power or Rings of Power, whatever it is, Rings of Power, excuse me. I want to be fair. Like with they're handcuffed. They cannot tie any connective tissue whatsoever to the Lord of the Rings proper, as it were. So essentially, this is like they have the money and the guidelines to make and I don't mean this in a bad way, because there is some really good fan fiction. But for the most part, when you say fan fiction, it comes with a certain connotation. I'll put it that way. Not always positive, but they're doing their own thing and they're trying to do something very unique. And we'll see if they can stick the landing or not, or people. But yeah, I do. There has been, and whether it's fighting with the fans, which you don't do, and just letting the thing be what it is and like let it stand on its own, like House of Dragon. House of Dragon now has already come out. It's already on its own 2 feet. I have yet to hear a very pointed opinion on like it sucks or it's woke or like whatever, like where it's like really justified, But aside from that silliness, boy, this one is like,
yeah.
Whether bad or good. P.T. Barnum had a thing of like, there's no such thing as bad publicity or whatever. Like you can use it for your own thing. I don't know that they know how to do that, but it's going to be out September 1st, a day early. So
there's unfortunately there's certain tropes that TV shows have developed over the past handful of years. So when House of Dragon, when I started watching it, I was waiting for it to zig a certain way, but then it zagged. It went in a different direction. It didn't fall into the tropes that I was expecting it to, and was very, very surprised and refreshed by it. And I am anticipating this show to zag into some of those tropes, and we'll see. And to be continued as far as our discussion next week.
Again, and I can't state this enough, but I believe that they're letting it out a day early. If you're in the U.S. anyway, they're gonna. You can watch it on September 1st on the Thursday, I believe. So yes, technically it's September 2nd, and I'm surprised that like nobody's talked more about that, like where they're moving it up. But I think that I don't. It'll be really interesting in 6 months after things kind of settle down and we have a body of work with this one and a body of work with House of Dragons. I honestly, I think they're 2 different competitors. And I think that the way that it'll happen, they're just not in the same. Well, for one, obviously they're different properties, but I think they're going to be in 2 different, very, very different places. I'll just put it that way. As far as it goes, we'll see. But after that body of work, after we can see that and see what the dust settles, it'll see. Maybe it would have been better if Rings of Power went first, or how that would have happened. Who knows? But I don't think probably at the end of the day that won't matter too much. But I think that because they're two completely different aspects and shows, and they're trying to do 2 very, very different things. But anyway, moving on to the next we'll see. We'll see. I know we're going to be watching the first. I think they're releasing the first 2 episodes. So regardless, it'll be kind of cool to see what happens. So
yeah. All right. Well, look
so
at
moving
this.
on.
The Flash. Yeah, Flash's rivals Dark Knight trilogy. We keep hearing more and more good things about the Flash movie.
Let it out. Release it already.
Right, like I said, release it before Ezra
Miller
kills somebody or blows up a bomb or something.
Something horrific where they can't.
Knows what that guy's going to do, or them will do. Just don't know.
I won't play that game. Like once kids are involved, I don't have any respect for that, and I won't. You're a lot kinder than I am, but at the same time, I'm not going to dwell on it. I'll just call him by his first name, Ezra. But well, I agree. I completely agree. You're right. Kick this thing out the door as soon as possible, because like this guy, this guy is not doing anybody any favors, and he is imploding like as we speak. So before it gets to like, there are some sins that are even Hollywood stars commit, and once they commit that sin, nobody wants anything to do with them. They become radioactive, and that's where we are dangerously, if not already there, with this particular individual. For sure.
Yeah, the whole cancel culture has gotten a little out of hand, but in Ezra's situation, I think it's Warren. So yeah, this movie obviously needs to be released if it's as good as what everyone's speculating it as. But I do believe, no matter what, this is the farewell to Ezra, and we'll see a new Flash in the future if we see any more of the Flash.
We'll see, and they could, in defense of DC and their wackiness and their multiverse, they could easily do it.
Absolutely.
And they could also, they absolutely could do it well. And they have, in my opinion, they have done that very well on the smaller screen with the Flash, the TV show on CW. Not the whole way through, but a few seasons. For a few seasons, it was really, really good TV. And they were in and out of those concepts, and they did it very well. But anyway, moving on. Yeah, I just like this. This is very interesting to see this. I don't know. So Shazam 2 is also coming out, and Black Adam. I probably won't see Black Adam on the big screen. I definitely will see Shazam 2, because actually, the first Shazam was one that me and the kiddos saw, and we loved it. It was very cute. It was very heartwarming. It was awesome. And we'll definitely be back to see Shazam 2. Black Adam, I don't know, maybe not, whatever. But yeah, we'll see. I would.
Yeah.
We'll see.
With DC, I watched Mega 64's podcast last weekend, and made the joke that during Comic-Con, Marvel announced like 100 billion Marvel movies and TV shows, and DC said, "Hey, we got a new Shazam and a bad Shazam movie." That's it. that's what we got.
That's pretty much the gist of it. It's DC has lived in Marvel's shadow for a long time now. And we're seeing that being shooked up, and hopefully we'll have somebody steering the ship right that can pick the right people and let the talent do its work.
But I tell you what, to quote Hank from the Hill, if they pull off Shazam and Black Adam and release a great movie, the two movies, those will stand above the 100 billion Marvel projects that are okay.
Well, the one is just about as common as water, and the other one is not. So it definitely stands out more, and I think there's an extra dose of fandom that shows up for really good DC properties, like Wonder Woman and Batman, etc. Anyway, moving on. So I kind of seen headlines about this. So they're actually going to make a live action version of Red Sonja. I assume. That's very interesting. What are your thoughts on this?
It's just to give you some back history. There was a previously a Red Sonja movie that starred Brigitte Nielsen back in the day, and had Arnold Schwarzenegger in it. He played a no-name barbarian, because I don't think because of copyrights they could actually have him called Conan in that particular movie. And this Red Sonja has a interesting IP history. She's not created by Robert E. Howard. It's not a creation. He did not create her in the Conan universe. The writer for the comic book, the Marvel comic, Roy Thomas, which is a legend. I love the guy. He's he means the world to me. But he actually created the character Red Sonja for the comic book. He wanted a strong female character to be introduced to correspond with Conan. There is a strong female character later in Conan's life, in the Robert E. Howard written stories. Belit, when Conan was a pirate, she was the pirate queen that he fell in love with. But and then there's another a female character in another of his stories. Belit is famously has long black hair. The other one, I think her name is Valeria. She has blonde hair. So he introduced this redhead female character in the Conan comic book series.
Okay.
But
Cool.
but the cool thing is he was inspired by another Robert E. Howard story that he wrote, that a character similar to Red Sonja was in. So he kind of based it off of a previous character that Robert E. Howard created. So she was kind of inspired by something Robert E. Howard created, but he inserted her into the Conan universe, and so she's tangentially related to Conan, and different people have bought the property from Marvel of Red Sonja. I think currently she's with IDW. She could be with another no, she's with Dynamite. She's with Dynamite right now. So but yeah, so this movie will be about Red Sonja. I don't think she's going to have any ties to Conan, but she's always been kind of an interesting character. So I'll be interested to see what they do with her.
Okay. Very cool.
But yeah, I have never seen the old Red Sonja movie. I've heard various things.
I've not either.
So yeah, so hopefully
It's
this will be a good take on her.
very intriguing for sure. Well, they could do really cool stuff.
Mhm.
There is a definite appetite for warrior chick type things like warrior princess, and the like, for sure. Cool.
Yeah, and you and the cool thing is she's her own character. She is Red Sonja. You're not taking Conan and gender swapping him and and making it. I was trying to think of a female version of Conan's name, but but you don't have that sort of okay, Conan's a woman now. You have the actual character Red Sonja. That's a character in her own right that has a really cool backstory and origin story. So yeah, you could do something with her without her being the gender swapped opposite of somebody else.
Yeah, it's its own thing, and this is why, and this is a valid criticism for why they keep trying to do all these new lesser known characters that nobody knows anything about, and it's like why are we doing that? Like when you don't have to recreate the wheel, right?
Yeah.
Like, and this could very well be one of those things that could be awesome. And moving on to Mark Ruffalo. This time, it sounds like instead of like him needing to close his yap, it looks like something he actually said is compelling and cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like joke, all kidding aside, but we kind of have our own
Yeah.
opinions on when somebody opens up their yap and just says something just ridiculous, and it just makes you roll your eyes and just be like,
Yeah.
I don't want anything to do with this. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, and I guess he's looking out for himself. He's thinking, he's not getting any younger, and maybe I could play an older Hulk. And then there's a great future storyline called Maestro, that Peter David has written. That's really cool.
yep.
I don't know how Mark Ruffalo's portrayal of the Hulk is such a likable character. It would be an interesting thing to see him do an evil version of a older Hulk. That would be quite fascinating. If you could pull that off, that would be great. That's a really cool futuristic sci-fi storyline dealing with time travel. That if Marvel can pull it off, that would be a really good storyline to pursue.
Yeah, I kind of feel like, and as a original Hulk fan growing up as a kiddo, all the way till now, I've really enjoyed the Hulk movies. Like they have to reboot it so often, whatever, that's fine.
Mhm.
But it would be really cool if we could just get a Hulk movie that was more about him,
Yeah,
or something,
you,
or
yeah, and
something.
I know they have trouble with doing uh, um, a a Hulk centric solo movie because there's rights issues with, I guess, Universal. But yeah, the Maestro would be kind of a workaround to that because it's not really Hulk, it's Maestro, so it's a different character, so to speak. So I don't know how that works with the copyright and whatnot and owning of characters, but it sounds like that could be a loophole that they could do to make a solo Hulk movie in the MCU.
Absolutely. Yeah, this would be cool to see what happens. So we'll see. You never say never, but just don't know.
Yeah,
That would be
and and maybe to piggyback a little bit, I did watch the second issue or the second episode of She-Hulk. Uh,
oh, how was it?
I was expecting not to like it. It was only a half hour, so it didn't outlive its welcome. It was okay. You've got it's basically a half hour comedy about a female lawyer that's also She-Hulk, and I'm to be honest, I was back in the day. I was a huge fan of Alec McBeal back in the '90s,
Okay.
about a female attorney. It was a sort of a dramedy, as they call it back in the day, uh,
Sure.
where but yeah,
That's
that didn't take itself too seriously, and I it kind of
fine.
falls into that vibe. I enjoyed it. I could see why people would not enjoy it. My female friend that really enjoyed the first episode of She-Hulk said that the second episode was boring in her opinion, and she didn't care for it. But
It's fine.
but yeah, I it's not. I don't think it's what Marvel fans want or ask for. And the showrunner in another article I didn't pull for this said that she has not read a single She-Hulk comic book. So obviously, showrunner doesn't have any interest in pleasing the comic book fans. At least she's not. She
Yeah,
hasn't invested time on the character. So it's a take on the character by someone who doesn't know the character.
yeah. I have heard good, for most part, positive things about the main actress who plays it.
Yeah.
And doesn't pick fights with fans. Doesn't get into the pit. As has said, well, that's okay. People can feel how they do, but I definitely think that show is a sitcom. I mean, it's a de facto type of
Mhm.
take, and the demographic for it, I also think, is typically it's not made for, say, folks our age, and whatnot.
Yeah.
Maybe maybe for a subset, but it definitely has a
Yeah.
different feel, like a more Family Matters, kind of, obviously, with like superhero things. It's a little bit
Mhm.
different, but in
Yeah.
that single
Mhm. Yeah.
working woman lawyer, doing her thing.
Yeah. Yeah, and they're criminally underplaying the whole breaking the fourth wall kind of thing.
Okay,
She does it a once or twice in the second episode, and it was sort of like an afterthought. She kind of looked over behind her shoulders, like, "Okay," speaking to the audience. "Oh, can you believe this?" Blah blah blah, and it's like you're not you're with that kind of gimmick, if you're going to use it, you play into it and make something out of that instead of just, oh, by the way, hey guys, hey, I could talk to you. It's sort of like you need to do something with it. And the one thing that kind of carried this episode was she did um, go to Tim Roth, who's um, he's coming back. He did the Abomination
Abomination.
in the last Hulk movie,
Ed Norton
yeah,
one.
yeah, and Tim Norton is a great Tim Roth is a great actor. So yeah, there's a nice long scene with those two characters and with him and She-Hulk, and that played really well. And the funniest line, I know you're probably going to see She-Hulk second episode, so I'll spoil it for you. If you don't want to hear out there in the audience, maybe skip ahead a couple of minutes. But there's a scene where, after talking to Abomination, She-Hulk calls up Bruce Banner, Hulk, asking his permission, or just basically telling that she's going to take him on as a client. And Hulk says, "Oh yeah, the whole Abomination thing, it's so old. Yeah, I feel like I'm a completely new person."
That's funny.
And sort of wink to the audience that yes, it's a whole new new person playing Hulk. But yeah, no, that's all I can say about that. I'm enjoying it.
Interesting.
I won't make any excuses or defend it. You either like it or you don't. And like I
Well,
said, it's a sitcom, and it's
Right.
geared very female centric
right.
audience. And then if that's the audience they're going for, and
Right.
if that appeals to them, then fantastic. But like I said, I it's, if it was a hour long episode, I'm maybe kind of less interested in seeing it. But since it's a half hour and there's only going to be 6 episodes, I can do that.
Yeah, you definitely can start to see the shaping the contours of what they're going for. Now I kind of feel like they're looking and searching for their next demographic, or not for their next one, but they're slowly trying to formula. And just like technology, they're iterating very, very quickly, and you can see that for better or for worse across the properties. But anyway, moving on. I think we're ready to slide into our recommends this week.
A little post note.
Please.
I didn't link it, but I did read where an article where Val Kilmer's wants to come back as Batman in a movie. I thought that was kind of interesting. I know Val Kilmer's had some issues with his health and whatnot, and he's gone through some struggles of his own.
For sure.
So that I was kind of my thoughts were, I don't know if that would work, but then I started thinking, with the right writer and director in a multiverse situation, that could be interesting. But yeah, that's I just wanted to kind of post that as a something to think about. But I don't know if that'll ever happen. But Val Kilmer's put out the feelers, and so he's still out there. He's still wanting to work, and
yeah, you definitely, kind of calling back to what you're just talking about, She-Hulk. It is really important for you to understand the nature of the material you're working with, and when you understand that, it works very well. When you can be cooperative with it, just like I think of the guy's name who did Deadpool. Oh, good grief! I should have my
Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah, Ryan Reynolds understands that inside and out, and he made that awesome. Anyway, that's cool.
Yep.
Cool. Moving on. So this week we slide into your comic book recommends. You have one this week, and as we kind of started at the top of the show with talking about Zaslav and DC and the potential, they're already collaborating with McFarlane, and that's awesome.
Yeah. And Todd McFarlane, if I had to pick a modern day equivalent, which you really can't, but if I was going to, a modern day equivalent of Stan Lee, it would be Todd McFarlane. He's a consummate showman. He's always he's out there. He's on Facebook. He goes to conventions. He's very connected with the fans. He's very enthusiastic with the fans. He does not pick fights with the fans. He understands them to the point where he knows how to market to them. He knows He's in all spectrums of the nerd. He's making comic books, he's making toys, he's still trying to get a Spawn movie made. So he's has his hands in various things, and he knows how to hype them, how he knows how to make fans excited, and he knows how to communicate with them. And he's relaunched. Well, they never stopped making Spawn comic books, but he introduced a couple of years ago the Spawn multiverse, which reignited the enthusiasm for Spawn. And to capitalize on that, he had various graphic novels that had collected various runs of Spawn, but he knew probably the new fans wanted to catch up as quickly as possible. He's coming out with these compendiums, which works great for me because I missed the boat early on. I did not read Spawn. I wasn't really a big Todd McFarlane fan back in the day, which is beneficial now for me because I get to read these compendiums, which collect 50 issues of Spawn comic books, and I just get to overdose on Spawn. And this third compendium, I have it in my hot little hands here.
Nice.
Again,
Nice.
it's 50 issues. About halfway through. This takes the third compendium takes you from issue 101 to 150, and then by the end of the year, I think in November or December, volume compendium 4 will be out, which will take us to issue 200. So yeah, it's the one cool thing. It's very cool to read a comic book monthly. Back in the day when I was younger, when I didn't have as many distractions like streaming services and everything, when I had only comic books to look forward to.
Yep.
One of my pure joys was rushing out the on I forget what day comics came out then. It was probably Thursday, I think. Picking up my comic books, devouring them as quickly as possible, and then spending the next month anticipating, speculating, thinking about what's going to happen in the next issue, and then running out and getting it and devouring it. But there's another joy of reading a full run back-to-back issues. You can when you read a comic book series in that order, when you're reading a chunk of 50 issues together, you start to see if there's any strengths or weaknesses. They start coming out very clearly when you're reading that. When you're reading it monthly, things don't stand out as clear as they do when you're reading them. And in this chunk of 50 issues, Todd McFarlane is writing the comic book. Let me make sure I get the guy's name right. He's writing it with Brian Holguin, I think his name is. And I think Brian really at that point introduced a lot of energy and ideas into the Spawn storyline. And I'm only about halfway through, but all of them have been standout and really good reads. So yeah, if you have all these issues in your back issues, you have them in your big long box, there's really no need to get this unless you wanted and it's pretty affordable. It's $60, which I think with the discount on Amazon, if you have Prime, I think they knock off about $10. So that's almost, it's a little more than $1 an issue. So if you wanted a cheaper way to just read it without digging out your back issues, it's fine. The only minus on this is that the covers, they don't include the covers.
Yeah, that sucks. I wish they would do that because I know it, and I kind of know why they do that kind of, but I always still enjoy the series that the compendiums that have that, you're reminded once upon a time this was like episode. And I echo your thing. In childhood, I had a couple different routines for a few birthdays in a row. My grandparents would or some family member would. I remember my grandma and my grandpa doing it for me. they would get me a subscription to Marvel, to like X-Men, or to some of the titles that I loved. And I loved,
Mhm.
oh man, I couldn't wait for it to get. Of course, it came a few days later in the mail, but still, I love that. I love like ripping it open and reading it, and then waiting for the next story, or biding my time. And at the time, to where we lived, it was a college town. And where we lived, there was like a strip mall just down the way, and
Mhm.
there was also comic book section in the grocery store at the time. I don't recall what it
Mhm.
was. I can't
Yeah.
remember, but
Yeah.
it doesn't really matter. But they also had a Little Caesars, so I would go and get my dollar slice of pizza, or go get my comic book cards or my whatever comics,
Mhm.
and then on my on my allowance, and then being able to go grab a slice of pizza and like make a little thing, like I had a little
Mhm.
thing. Very,
Yeah.
very endearing for sure.
Yeah.
For
Yeah.
that, and to kind of dip into this too. Same thing. Probably around half a decade ago or something like that. I was like, I had a lot of spare time, and I was like, it would be really cool to catch up on some really good storylines for like Superman or some other ones, and revisit those. And
Mhm.
man, I love those. Periodically I'll pull those off the shelf and
Mhm.
read them again. But they're
Mhm.
very good, and Spawn is no exception to that. I have yet to pick up something like this, Spawn related. But I've done it for offbeat comics that have grown into things, but were not at the time, like Judge Dredd. That was not a popular or super popular wide one at the time. But since then, it's fun to pick up these things and read them from start to finish, and just get blown away by the artwork and the quality for sure. And then
Mhm.
kind of moving in, I was gonna say we have a Ray Narvaez. I can't pronounce his name. I'm going to butcher it.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry, man. My apologies.
Yeah. You could call him. He goes by Brown Man as well. He's
Okay.
he,
Okay.
he's Puerto Rican, and falls he plays up all the stereotypes. He doesn't doesn't hide away from anything. But yeah, Narvaez Jr. I'm even having trouble with it, but
Burris.
yeah, Ray
Yeah.
Ray. I've been following Ray for a long time now.
Awesome.
He's a currently he's on Twitch. He mainly does Twitch. So if you want to watch him
Sure.
live and catch up with him, go in on watch him as Ray on Twitch TV. But he also uploads his streams from Twitch onto YouTube, and this is
Very
his
cool.
YouTube channel. He uploads the full streams and also highlights.
Awesome.
And he if some of you guys out there that know your YouTube history, Ray used to be with a group called the Achievement Hunters back in the day, and his run on Achievement Hunter is probably best remembered as the best days, best years that Achievement Hunter was around. That was the heyday. And since he left to pursue his solo career as a Twitch streamer, things have gone kind of astray for Achievement Hunter. They've gone through some various controversies, lost a few more members to various scandals and whatnot. Some of the original members are still there, and when they upload something, it's always fun to watch. But Ray's streams are highly entertaining. He's a great gamer. He's really good, but he's classically as you do when you're a really good gamer. You downplay it, you make jokes, you make fun of how you play. You play antagonize with your audience. He knows
Right.
how to have fun with his audience, his chat, and it really kind of works him up. And he knows
Cool.
how to shill his various shirts and
Merch.
products and merch. Yes. uh but recently I've been watching more of his stuff, and so that kind of made me think to recommend it. But if you're kind of looking for something you might like, his Fall Guys and his Mario Party uh streams are really fun because
Okay.
he does those a lot of times with Chilled Chaos. The another guy goes by a platypus, and the other guy is blue cheesy nips. So when those four get together and play Mario, it's very funny and a very fun to watch. They have fun with each other, antagonizing each other, and the running joke is that Ray always wins Mario Party, and they're always screaming that that there's a script, that he's written a script previously, and it's all in the script that he's going to win, but that's not always the case. But it's always fun to watch those. But yeah, it's a great thing to say if you're working and you don't have to devote your full time to what you're doing. Throw on one of his streams, let it play, and kind of watch it off and on. That's probably the best way to watch it. Or if you want to watch something inconsequential as you fall asleep, and if you miss out on something, it's no big deal. That's probably the perfect way to watch this.
Yep. Yeah, indeed. Yeah, that's what I'll typically like. I'll either be one of two modes. One, just background. I just want something kind of chit chatty, or I'm somewhat interested in the gameplay. And I don't know if I want to buy the game or not. And I kind of want to watch and see what it's like. That will tell me that will help me inform if I in fact buy it or not, or want to, and sometimes it's just interesting to show up and watch somebody else play a game, because that's also fun too. I've definitely watched whole playthroughs on games that I was like, I like that game, but I don't have 400 hours to. Of course, it would take me 400 hours probably because I'd be farting around with it and being super casual about it. But some of these guys that they hop in on these games and like, damn, they're just so good.
I
definitely have some chops.
Yeah, I echo that. Yeah, I suck at Dark Souls type games, and if I could watch someone like Ray play it, I can enjoy because I love how the Dark Soul world looks, and I like the aesthetic of it, but I just would not be able to play the game. So it's fun to watch someone like Ray play through it and do a great run through it, and he's also really honest about his opinion of the game. Like the newest Saints Row famously has come out, and the very bad reviews. And so he uploaded a 2-hour run on it on YouTube, but he was excited because they toted that it had a mode where you could put it in to where it wouldn't play any of the copyrighted music, so that he could upload it to YouTube. But basically what it did was it just killed the radio. So, and all the other sounds were kind of oddly muted. So basically when he was driving around in the car in Saints Row, it was just kind of like driving around on a Sunday with the radio turned off. It's like, okay, nothing's really happening. So he only played 2 hours like that on for YouTube, just so people could get an idea how the gameplay was, and then he turned on the music back on for the Twitch stream to make it somewhat enjoyable. But yeah, from all of his complaints about that, the Saints Row, the newest one, is probably a hard pass for most people.
Very cool. Awesome. Yeah, definitely want to check out. That brings me to mind, and really I've recommended this one before, but it kind of excuse me. I think it's even more warranted considering the land that we're in with the new House of Dragons. And this particular channel, it only covers. It has a very narrow bailiwick, as it were. But boy, when he goes in on this stuff, he does a thorough job to kind of, especially Game of Thrones. I've watched him for years, to kind of understand and kind of get to the back. Like, I've read some of the books. I haven't read all George R.R. Martin's books, but I understand a little bit. But it's just so massive and so big, you can forget or not even be aware of. Like you it kind of, unfortunately, it kind of devolves into like this is why fantasy is not for normies. Normally, it is just big, long, and prolific, and there's this thing, and there's that thing, and there's intrigue, and soap opera is very like that. But anyway, this guy does a great job to catch you up to where they're at and what's going on and why they're going. The thing I like about this is like his, and he does have spoilers, so fair warning. But if you want to understand the background, you can take it either 20 minutes or you can do a full 2 hours if you want to. You know, how far you want to get into it is that's how it goes. But also the great thing is he has a library of these videos that kind of really go in depth, and he has a little bit of an opinion, but it's not. This is the one that I like. These are the kind of channels that I like where if there's criticism, he doesn't shy away from it. But at the same time, it's completely divorced away from, you know, whatever I guess, I don't know what you call it, the blogosphere says about certain kind of things, you know, which is like kind of like, okay, yeah, like, I want to hear that once in a while, but like when it comes down to it, I don't care about any of that crap. I just want to focus in on the content and know more about it so I can appreciate it more. I'm surprised he doesn't do a podcast because I guess he's starting to do, well, that's more of a newer thing. He's coming on like a live stream. It's also a podcast or whatever. But anyway, Alt Shift X is where you should go for your background story. Emergency Awesome also does some. Emergency Awesome is also another YouTube channel that covers that, but he covers everything. And his is much more bite size. So if you don't want to get into like all the details, like in depth, but with Alt Shift X, you can you can scope in or out whatever amount of detail you want to write it to. But he's also, his video style is also very good. I've actually watched a lot of his long form content because he keeps it interesting. It's almost like a documentarian type style, because you need 2 hours to lay out the timeline or this story arc or this thing from the novels and how that interplays with the show and like what's going on. But this guy is always great, for sure. Anyway, kind of shout out to him. And again, kind of to roll back to your thing again, I'll hammer this every single time. But if you can find a new YouTuber, or new enough that's been out that is like not quite a million, you know, it could be a million, it's fine, but like under a million to a few 100,000, boy, those channels are the ones like where you see the most growth and the most content. It's just awesome to jump on. I'm gonna definitely add this guy to my repertoire because the only other Twitch personality that I follow regularly that also does YouTube stuff is Pay Money Wubby. But he he's kind of an edgelord, and it's an acquired taste for his opinion, you know, for his kind of hot takes. But that's okay. He is just an entertainer. Like he's not, you know, sometimes he'll do games, like sometimes it'll just be personality. But anyway, but
and Ray's I would say he's probably PG-13. He'll say something a little spicy,
sure.
but nothing too bad. And I don't know if you remember it, but maybe it's been 3 years now, maybe it's been less, but there was a Twitch leak that showed that it was revealed the top 100 streamers and what they made and whatnot. And
I kind of remember.
Ray was on that list at number 52. And so it's been a running meme in his chat. Whenever he does something good, he'll go, and that's the 52 difference.
That's awesome. That's good. That's a guy that is playful and goes with reality that people love to see. That positive kind of, that not everything has to be a fight. Nowadays,
right.
Like it's just like you get in on it, and it's like that's fine too for a little bit, but you know, like look, I'm as guilty as anybody. I like my stupid TMZ articles or whatever. Not really, but you know, that level, that TMZ level of YouTube stuff, you kind of catch here and there that can be kind of entertaining on the side. Other times it can be like, I could care less. But it just kind of depends on how familiar you are with the players. But that's awesome. That's awesome. That's cool. Yeah.
Yep.
Awesome. And that, of course, our rolls us up to the end of the grab bag. I think we can close it up. Unless you have anything else. I didn't really have anything to jump on or whatnot soapbox wise, other than don't fight with the fans. Like, stop doing that. Like, don't do that. Like, don't let your work stand on its own and just be quiet. Because after the fact, that's kind of the whole point of like letting it stand on its own. You have to. That's how it always is. You make something creative and artistic to the world, and then
yeah. Yeah. The only thing I'll add is this is not a gamer centric channel, but and we don't pretend to be gaming
not
people, but yeah, I dip in and out of games so much that I hardly ever finish a game. But
same.
I've recently dipped back into Assassin's Creed, and I've been playing Assassin's Creed 2, the remastered collection, and Assassin's Creed 3 remastered as well. And I've been getting my Ezio fix with Assassin's Creed 2, and then Assassin's Creed 3 really plays into my American history chops, since it takes place during the American Revolution.
I remember that. I bought that one specifically, and I played it and I loved it. That was the one like where you could also do the ship and have boat like cannon battles and stuff. Like, that was really cool. I dug that. I don't think I completed it, but I definitely had a lot of fun for sure.
Yeah, I never completed it, and I got the itch. And it's like, maybe I'll finish it this time.
Yeah, I'm looking forward as the new house comes together. I do not have a living room right now, and that's by design, because I don't want to. I want to really limit my old things from my condo to. I don't want to just bring in a bunch of new junk, right? I or my old junk, I should say. I want to have a certain vision in mind. But anyway, once my living room is set up in the next few months or so, I really am looking forward to dipping a toe back into some retro gaming and playing them and revisiting some other ones. Like I've just had an itch to play Cyberpunk 2077. I jumped in and I played it for a little bit, but unfortunately it's buggy as hell. No lie, every single damn time I would go to play it, there'd be an update for it. It would take forever and a day. And then by the time I came back to play it, I was already out of the mood. And then I moved on and I went to do something else. Like, that's so frustrating, like to get it set up. But so in any case, all whinging aside.
Hopefully we'll do some gaming on this on our channel. Maybe multiplayer, maybe find something that we could do, like do 2-player on or something. But so if you want to watch a couple of boomers play video games, we'll be there for you.
We've been kicking that around, and once things settle down on my end, and we can do we can have some fun with that, because that would be really fun to just jump in a game and just kind of have back and forth and just see how it goes, and just because you're a pretty funny guy, and I'm funny in my own right, and we have our own little jokes and observations we can crack for sure.
Right. Yeah. It could be something wonderful or a hot mess, but yeah, we're looking forward to seeing what we can what we can do in that area. So that may be something we add to this channel, or if it takes off, maybe do a separate channel of us doing nerd plays or whatever we want to call
let's play
it.
or something. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we could definitely do a let's play, Nerdom let's play for sure. And with that, I don't know about you, but I'm looking forward to kind of put a pin on it. Speaking of video games, I am really looking forward to Starfield. I hold no illusions that hype. You have to be careful, because unfortunately, every major game that has been put out in the last long while, there's been a streak of this tremendously over the top hype, and then when it comes out, it is not any of those things, and at best it might just be like a one-off playthrough. At worst, it's a buggy mess, and it just
That's
Nobody's gonna be playing a game when they got to do IT work to make the damn thing work.
right.
Nobody, not even
Yeah.
the diehard fan, like they're gonna be like, get this, let me play something else.
Right. Starfield is in my radar to the outskirts, but the
Cautiously
three that
optimistic.
yeah, the three that absolutely looking forward to, the one that's a no-brainer that I'm gonna get immediately when it comes out is uh, God of War. I think it's Ragnarok is the name of it.
Okay.
But yeah, the newest iteration of God of War, I absolutely love the last one. So that one's a no-brainer. The next one, I'm cautiously optimistic about Gotham Knight,
Okay.
which is the Batman game that doesn't have Batman in it. It
Okay.
has Robin, Nightwing, and Batgirl in it.
Does it have? It has
There's
Nightwing.
yeah, yeah,
Oh, very
yeah,
cool.
yeah, and it's the concern that people have is of course that Batman's not in it, and also they're worried that they're taking a woke angle, but I haven't heard any definitive thing that points in that direction. And the thing that also makes me excited about it is that they're focusing on the Court of Owls storyline, which is
Okay.
one of my absolute favorite storylines of Batman. The fact that Batman's not in it is going to be interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, looking
I'll see.
cautiously looking forward to that. And the last one, I'm absolutely going to get 100%, and most likely love it. And I'm totally nerded out, and that's okay. As the Hogwarts game that's coming out.
For sure.
I'm unapologetically a Harry Potter fan, and to be able to create your character and run around in that world, I think will be fun. But yeah, we'll
What
see.
speaking of that, what house does it go by houses? What house are you in? Because I know all the Harry Potter nerds, they align themselves with one of the ones.
Oh well, I'll pick the least popular one, like Hufflepuff or something
All
like.
right.
I always when I do a game where you can pick stuff, I always pick the most outrageous or the least favorite. Like when World of Warcraft came out, I had to be a gnome. There was no way around it. I absolutely had to be a warlock gnome, an evil gnome. But when everybody else had no interest in being a gnome, there I was.
That's awesome. Good stuff. Good stuff. Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I believe that brings us up to the. That's it. That's all. That's all. That's all. Angela Lansbury
Yep.
wrote.
Yeah, we
That's all she
stuffed.
wrote.
Yeah, we took out all our goodies out of the bag, and then we stuffed them back in, and I think we're gonna seal it back up, and we'll see you
This week.
next week. Like you said, if you made it to the end, you get the bonus. We're most likely going to do the Samaritan, the Stallone movie next week, and then we'll also talk about the Lord of the Rings new show. We haven't decided which one's going to be the main podcast and which one will focus on the grab bag. But yeah, we'll see which ones has the most meat on the bone. Do that as our main podcast. So
Indeed.
yeah.
Indeed. All right. Well, I've been Mike,
And I'm Thomas.
and we'll see you next time.
Yep. See ya.